because specifically what you chose was to invest in a 5-star hotel as your home without knowing how you would pay for it, and frankly without really feeling all that confident in the moment that you would be able to make money. What is important I think there are two separate questions. One is for you. Why is it important for you to be having this level of luxury? And why is it important for your people?
Yeah, such a beautiful question. When I wasn't allowing myself this level of luxury, I felt actually very misaligned. Like it felt like I was keeping myself intentionally small or in situations that made me feel insecure isn't the right word, but unsupported, so that I would have to be like fixing the support and propping myself up so I actually couldn't focus on the really important stuff. It felt like a distraction. It felt like a lie. In the way that you always say confusion is a lie. My not aligning with the level of luxury and surroundings and support that I need was a lie. It was a stalling tactic. And you called it out for me. And we had this moment with this call where I was like, I think I'm fancy. And I think I need to claim my fancy. And fancy is such a funny word, but it's the right word. Fancy. So I'm claiming my fancy. And I think it's so important for, I'm a woman of color, I'm an immigrant, I have chronic illness. Like all the women that will stand on my shoulders knowing that this is possible, that they can make this kind of money with ease and grace, that they can put themselves, save yourself. Like I saved myself. And I put myself in this beautiful situation that allowed me to thrive, allowed me to step into this next level of becoming.
Can you talk a little bit about the moment before you moved into the hotel?
I will talk to you about the couple of days before I moved into the hotel. So, backstory, context, I am recovering from mold poisoning. I have a mold issue in my apartment, and I booked an Airbnb when I came out here, and the first night was kind of delirious, but the next day I woke up and I realized that the bathroom was full of mold. And at first I was like, okay, it's fine, like just be casual, Amina, you're cool, like you're cool, right? Like you don't make a big deal. So I was like being casual, and then like throughout the day I was like, is this okay? So then I was like sending pictures to friends, and friends were like, that's not okay, like we don't have mold problems, you should get out of there. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna get out of here. And I remember having a conversation with one of my friends, and the thing that she said to me, she was like, this just kind of feels off-brand. And I was like, oh, interesting, she's right. Like, this feels off-brand. Like, why am I here in this situation? It was that lie, that confusion of keeping myself in something a little unsteady so I could focus on that versus my growth. And then the minute I decided that I was going to a hotel, like I decided like within 7 minutes, and packed up my entire Airbnb, which was a lot of stuff because I came with 2 suitcases. I also shipped out a portable sauna, an air purifier, like all like water bottles, food, like whatever. I went over the top.
Because you're fancy.
Because I'm fancy. And I think within about 15 minutes, I had packed up the whole car. Mind you, it was up 2 flights of stairs. So I pack up the whole car, and then my husband, Steven, calls me at that time, and I've been trying to get in touch with him all day to see if I could use his hotel points. And he hadn't been reachable. And I'm in the car, and I'm drenched in sweat because I've been literally laboring, carrying all this stuff. And he's like, did you just go to Soul Cycle? Like, why are you so sweaty? I was like, no, I didn't go to Soul Cycle. I'm fleeing in the middle of the night. I'm saving myself. And it was like such a funny moment that I will never forget. And I like rolled up at the hotel, and it was like I was in a flotation tank, right? And I knew that the water would prop me up. I remember just like giving the keys to the valet, being like, all the stuff in the car, like just get it all. And like feeling like I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. And like literally there was a whole team that propped me up. A whole team that came and supported me.
It's cool hearing you talk about it because this is so recent. But you were really pretty aggressively against the idea of moving into a hotel at first.
Yeah. You invited me to have fun with it. So, and I think when I first got, so I had 2 hotels. When I got to the first hotel, I was like, oh, okay, so much better. And that's when we started to have the conversation. You're like, I'm gonna play with it, have fun. Like, where do you see yourself? Like, what would you want? Like, what would feel good? And you invited me to go on a couple tours to see some places. And I walked into the Fairmont and I was like, oh, home. First of all, there's like this majestic, magnificent, enormous tree as you drive up that is the most beautiful tree I think I've ever seen. And like the doors just open for you. You don't even have to open a door. And like the whole lobby is like so beautiful. And they showed me this ocean view room that I would get to wake up to the sunrise every freaking day. And I was just like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to lean into right now. I get to soften and relax.
I think the other thing that's important to share about this is the before and after around money. Because before you chose the Fairmont, how were you feeling about money?
I was panicked, and I called Jesse and I was like, hey, Jesse, to help me figure out how I'm gonna make the money to pay for this. And you were like, tell me how much money you have in your accounts, like give me the full rundown. And I was like, well, like I have X amount in my mortgage savings account, but that's really for a mortgage and like I really shouldn't touch it. And I was like, I really don't have that much available on my credit cards, like what am I gonna do here? And you're like, well, you actually do have the money. Like you have it, it's sitting in an account, you just don't wanna touch it. And that really shifted things. I was like, oh, it's already here. It's already here. More is available, but it's actually already here. Like I'm fine. And just that conversation coupled with being in that space, it just felt so supportive. Like as I was getting on my calls, I just felt like a different level of me, just like safe, supported, confident, able to show up a little bit differently because I had this like propping up and the money appeared. Didn't have to touch the savings.
I'm hearing voices of the people that are going to witness this story who are like, yeah, but that's not like me. Like Amina actually had the money in her account. I don't. How would you speak to them about this kind of creation? Because specifically what you chose was to invest in a 5-star hotel as your home without knowing how you would pay for it, and frankly, without really feeling all that confident in the moment that you would be able to make the money.
Yeah.
And I coached you to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And to take the leap and to not use the money from your account.
Yeah.
But you did have it. How would you respond if someone wanted to make the leap that you made but didn't have the mortgage account money?
I think in either situation, you're inviting me into a conversation of choosing the growth over the fear, right? The fear is present, ever present. Even as I was like, here's my credit card information for the deposit of the hotel. The fear was there, but I knew it was going to invite me into this next level of growth. And I think whether you have the money in your account or you don't have the money in your account, it's the same binary equation of like, I'm choosing growth and I will figure this out, whatever I have to figure out.
Yeah. I think that feels right to me too. And I think we actually talked about this that night, the lineage of David Nagel spending his last everything. I think he had like remortgaged his home or something. The guy was not making big money at the time that he hired his first mentor, but he literally paid everything he had to that mentor and was like, all right, how are you going to teach me to make the million? And his mentor was Bob Proctor, and Bob was like, fly first class to every single event that I do and ride in the back of the car, like in a limo. And David was like, are you kidding? Like, I don't have any money. I just literally, I just spent all my money to hire you. And now you're telling me to spend all this money to travel and like in this really high class way. Don't you think you should teach me to make some money first? And Bob's response was, you don't need the money yet. You don't need the money yet. You got to treat yourself like a millionaire. Then you'll need the money. And so when David didn't even have to tell me to fly first class because I had heard that story so many times by the time that I hired him. And it is a different way of moving through the world, to choose growth, to choose to spend without necessarily knowing exactly. It's not like, I don't know anyone that's done this work that had the money in the bank. That's the whole point, is that if you have the money in the bank, you don't need to do this work. But the work of saying yes to, I'm going to spend more than I understand how to live into so that it calls me forth in a new way. You have done that consistently here with me. as I've been witnessing you. I've watched you do that over and over again.
And I don't think I would have if I hadn't signed up for this, because there's an energy in this. There's the energy of the commitment, there's the energy of the work, there's the energy of wanting to show up big in it, but also like if I didn't have to put down this money, I wouldn't have space for it. I wouldn't be seeking it. And it's been bigger and more expensive than I ever thought it would be.